Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another, what I'm sure is going to be a relaxing edition of Live at the Waterhole, and hopefully a little bit exciting as well. We are at Oldonyo Lodge to start this afternoon in Kenya. My name is Maxine Gaines, and I'm looking forward to a great afternoon with you all. Please remember this is live and interactive. We would love to hear from you. Please send through any comments or questions or general conversation so that we can enjoy the time at the waterhole together. I think with all the madness that is going on in the world at the moment, I really need these next couple of hours to just focus on nature and forget about everything else. So I hope that you're going to do that with me and just enjoy the therapy that nature offers us in troubled times. And what a way to start with three gorgeous elephant bulls at Oldonyo. I think I often say this is probably my favorite of all of the waterholes. I just love seeing what's going on up here. I think having lived in Kenya for a while, um, I really just enjoy connecting regularly. Oops, it looks like we have had a little bit of trouble with that feed, so hopefully we'll get back there. But we're off at Jackie's. Ah, okay, so I think there might be something happening at the Hoedspruit Wildlife Centre. So let's go see it, the Endangered Wildlife Centre with the cheetah. Oh, okay. So let's skip that. We have some crocodiles somewhere that have just taken down some prey. So let's go and have a look at what's going on there. I think it was at Camelthorpe. Let's pop over there and see what's happening. So apparently the Zumi is not sure what has been taken, but something was taken, and it looks like whatever crocodile managed to take the prey, there seem to be a few more that are coming in for their share, which is quite common with crocodiles. They sense that kind of blood in the water and make their way to where the kill has happened. So I'm not sure. Also, their habit of taking prey under the water means we might not end up seeing what was actually taken. Let's hope we do get a little peek at what it was. Trying to count how many crocodiles are actually homing in on this bit of potential food. Very difficult actually to count them and to make out what is crocodile and what is prey. They do drown their prey initially by holding it underwater. So the zoomies are saying that they think it was a bird because they saw feathers. There's a lot of crocodiles to feast on a bird there. I'm not sure that most of them are going to get any food. Here's some guinea fowl alarming. Oh, I see. That looks like quite a large bird. I think I see a wing and a leg there. But in amongst all of that frenzy, it is quite difficult to make out any detail. But you can see how they have all realized that there is some food there, trying to bully food away from whoever might have made the kill. We always talk on here about how the birds seem to get really, really close to a lot of the crocodiles and don't seem to pay too much attention to them. And I mean, we've all seen it many, many times. It's so fascinating to know what causes crocodile to avoid, or not avoid, but to ignore birds so often and then just to go. Okay, now this crocodile he seems to be carrying something in his mouth and he almost looks like he's wanting to leave the water. Perhaps he thinks he'll have less competition if he takes the prey out of the water, but that's going to be quite difficult for him to manipulate it and to swallow it there. You know, manage to catch itself. He Oh my goodness, the bird looks like it's still alive and it looks huge. What on earth? That is really interesting, everyone. The way, now it could have just been that the crocodile that's holding it kind of flicked his head, which is what made it look, yeah, no, I don't think it's alive. I think the crocodile is actually flicking his head around, which is making the wings flap, but it is massive. Trying to figure out what it could be. I hope it wasn't a vulture. They've got so many problems as it is. It's big feathers because blood. So can't really go by the color of the feathers, but that's a massive. It was. It's fascinating stuff. And the feed is that stable, but it's still amazing to watch. Now, I think what we're going to do, because this feed is a little bit iffy, we're going to look to the cheetahs at the Wildlife or Endangered Wildlife Center, and then Nadine spill shoes. So we will hopefully come back here.
My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so because I've. Best part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. Become a member. You can gain access to the channel ad-free, you can rewind and re-watch sightings, and you can join our Tuesday live safaris. There's also behind the scenes videos, fireside chats, and every Safari Live episode, whenever you want it. It's just a better way to stay connected to nature.
Hi everyone, sorry about that. We had some issues with the feed. So we are now at the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Centre with the beautiful mum and babies. They look like they are enjoying some time in the shade. I'm surprised they're not in the sun actually. It's been rather chilly over most of the country for the last few days. Had some proper cold fronts moving in. But these little guys are so cute. Real little fluff balls. Trying to get themselves comfortable there in between mum's legs. There seems to be a bit of a breeze because you can see it ruffling their long hair on their backs every now and then. So I'm really quite surprised that they've chosen to lie in the shade. Lenny, you say that they are 8 weeks tomorrow. Gosh, 8 weeks. They still look so tiny, so young. But at 8 weeks in the wild, she would start to move them around quite a lot. Before that time, she kind of keeps them when, their den sites are not as kind of hidden and permanent as leopards' den sites, just purely because of the terrain that Peter find themselves in. There's not many places that you can hide your cubs in kind of open grassland or open savanna. And so she would move her cubs probably more than a leopard or a lion mother would, but still try and keep them as, as immobile as possible. But from the age of 8 weeks, she really does start to move around quite a lot with the cubs in the wild. Karen, you say it's very dry in the cheetah area. Yeah, it is. It's typical kind of low-felt winter, very, very dry. We're only going to get our first rainfall of the new season, gosh, probably only in around October, November. So it'll be pretty dry until then. As most of you know, we've only just had what for us would have been the winter solstice. You in the northern hemisphere would all have celebrated the summer solstice. Okay, we're going to head over to Aldonio while the cheetahs are having a nap. If they get a little bit more active, we'll come back here. But let's go and see what the Ellies are up to at my favorite waterhole. Oh, wow. Quite a few Ellies here now. All different shapes and sizes. That one on the far left has got a really interesting tusk that kind of curves behind the trunk and quite a prominent kind of V-shaped tear out of his ear, which makes him quite recognizable. As usual, we see the butterflies kind of congregating up. That kind of large clump of them on the right, I think, is congregating on the wet soil where the elephants have maybe splashed some of their water. It's quite difficult for the butterflies to drink out of the water hole without getting themselves, caught up in the water and drowning. So for them to to come to where there's a bit of moisture in the soil is probably a safer place to try and get a little bit to drink. And then also, of course, with the moisture in the soil, it dissolves minerals in the soil and they can get at the minerals that they need. But you can see how, I think it's a little plover. There's a few little wading birds there that are trying to take advantage of that clump of butterflies and actually trying to catch some of them. And of course, the elephants seem to be completely oblivious to the little, the needs of these butterflies. Just too small to really get their attention at all.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
About a butterfly being dependent on an elephant. If you talk about butterflies and what they need to survive in an environment, you talk about plants and you talk about nectar, and you really think about how dependent they are on something like an elephant to provide them with moisture, to provide them with minerals from their urine and from their feces. There's so many connections in this web of life that we are so unaware of, and you learn more about these connections every single day. And I think I said this the last time I was on, but it just really brings home to me how the loss of one species from an ecosystem can have repercussions that we don't even realize, because as humans we don't understand these connections enough. Everything is connected. Oh, sorry, little zebra. These Ellies are not going to give you a chance yet to come down for your drink. Wildlife lady is saying it's a boys' meeting. It is a bit of a boys' meeting. Yeah, and it is always so pretty to see the butterflies at this waterhole. I just love it. You can see mostly they are the whites, probably one of the migratory species. difficult to see the detail enough to know exactly which species of white or which species of butterfly it is. But every now and then, closer to the camera, you see a really colorful butterfly flit by as well. So I think the species diversity of butterflies here is just incredible. Joshua Drown is saying that 1 ton was there an hour ago. Okay, so he's already come down for his lunchtime drink. You can see, I think it's a baboon, a yellow baboon in the background as well. Something moving in the background there. Looked like it could have been a baboon. And the zebras just biding their time, waiting patiently for a gap. Okay, well, our feed is a little bit unstable here at the moment, so let's pop over to Tau and see what is happening at the waterhole at Tau in northern South Africa. Oh, wow. Also a beautiful herd of elephants and some zebra biding their time as well. Although I think the zebra probably at this waterhole can get a chance to drink when the elephants are drinking because it's a much bigger body of water. So they can probably find a spot where the ellies are not so that they can have a drink as well. Looking to see most of those elephants have got kind of darker tips to their trunks. So I think most of them have already had a drink. There's a big bull coming up to the waterhole, and you can see how that has caused a bit of a, I wouldn't say concern, but just some movement amongst the females and their youngsters. Looks like maybe the dominant female going there to meet the bull. Just maybe telling him to be gentle, not cause any trouble with the herd of youngsters. You often see this with, with the dominant female in the herd, just almost disciplining the bull. Sorry, we did have a little bit of an issue with that feed, so we've popped over to Jackie's quickly. I don't see any sign of Julia here or any of the hippos. There's something coming down to drink there, though. Looks like a water buck. Okay, but let's head over to Tembe. It looks like that feed is stable for the time being. So let's go and see also, I think, some elephants at Tembe in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Oh, lovely. Gosh, every time I see this water hole, that water plant that is on the top just seems to be getting thicker and thicker. I was saying the other day I wasn't 100% sure what water plant it was. I had a suspicion it might be water lettuce, but I'm not 100% certain. Um, but if you think about that plant from a bird's perspective, you know, these waterholes are really important breeding grounds for wetland birds. And having a plant take over the entire surface of the water like that can be a bit problematic because when birds are flying over, they don't necessarily see the water, so they don't recognize that there's habitat there. Wesley, do elephants feed on water plants? Absolutely, they do. Yes, they feed on a lot of the grasses that grow in the water. They love to eat sedges. I've seen them feeding on Phragmites reeds, which is a common reed that grows along rivers in South Africa and throughout the rest of Africa. So yes, they definitely do feed on water plants. I'm not sure that I've ever noticed them feeding on this specific plant here, but that's not to say that they don't. I just haven't really watched them and seen them feeding on this plant. It could be water lettuce because I know water lettuce does kind of go yellowish. Um, So what colors do, I'm not sure who asked this question, it might also be Wesley. What colors do the elephants see? So most animals that feed on plants actually have quite good color vision because they need to be able to see when a fruit is ripe or oh, sorry, it was Picasso that asked the question. Good question, Picasso. So, yes, so animals that feed on plants tend to see color quite well because they need to be able to recognize flower color. They need to be able to see when a fruit is ripe. Um, and so you tend to find animals that feed on plants have good color vision, whereas, and also animals that are active during the day tend to have quite good color vision compared to more nocturnal animals. And the reason for that difference is because to be able to see well at night, you need rod cells on the retina of your eye. And obviously, for most animals, or for any animal, there's only so much space that the retina can offer. And so um, and that space is taken up by two different cells, mainly rod cells and cone cells. Now, cone cells have very good color vision or allow very good color vision. Rod cells are really good at picking up low levels of light so that the animal can see well in the dark. So, any animal that is nocturnal is going to give up space on its retina, give up the cell space to rod cells so that there are more rod cells on the retina, which means much better vision at night. So you tend to find that animals that are more active at night tend to, and that need their vision at night to hunt, um, or to look for food at night, tend to have more rod cells on the retina of their eye, and that is at the sacrifice of color vision because they've had to give up space for the cone cells on the retina. So that's not really the case with elephants. They're not hunting at night. They do feed a little bit during the night, but it's not that they have to have such accurate, nocturnal vision as a predator would. And so you will find that their color vision is probably, if not as good as a primate's, it's say what plants do ellies totally avoid? Gosh, so that is an interesting question and one that I'm not sure I know the answer to. Um, So I have seen elephants eating plants that, that we would consider to be poisonous or toxic to ourselves. Things like members of the deadly nightshade family, the solanums, which are quite poison. Some of them are quite poisonous to us, and yet elephants tend to pick them and feed on them without any issues. I would say that I've ever seen an elephant eat a buophony. Um, Buophony is the Bushman's poison bulb. It's a beautiful, it's a very, very big bulb. Um, but then it has this incredibly beautiful pink flower in, gosh, trying to think when we see the flowers. I think it's early spring that you see the Buophony in flower. And that is very, very, very toxic. I can't say I've ever seen an elephant dig up one of those bulbs and eat them. So I'm sure there are probably plants that the elephants do avoid. Um, but I'm not 100% certain, on the details of that. A lot of our monocotyledonous plants that are bulb type plants have got toxins in them. Um, but then, I do see elephants digging up bulbs a lot as well. So it's very difficult to say exactly which plants they avoid completely. But I have been in a park where we see the buophony or where you see the buophony growing, and I've never ever seen an elephant digging up or eating a buophony. So I have a suspicion that they don't like buophony.
Katika mwanga wa mwezi, kivuli hutembea, mrembo mweusi anayepotea, macho yake ni taa, gizani huwaka, fuvu la msitu, malkia anayejificha.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
I get to wake up every morning and go out there and look for cats. I get to create my everyday safari for myself. I grew up in the sort of central eastern suburbs of Johannesburg, fully qualified trails guide and a fully qualified nature conservationist. I love the wild places. I love being in the wilderness. It's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had and probably ever could have.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature, live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
Nice if you can introduce herds where there are already pre-existing, even if it's just a small number of animals that have actually grown up in that habitat, and you can reintroduce these elephants into an environment like that, then perhaps you get some kind of knowledge transfer that happens between the animals that grew up there and the animals that are being introduced. And that, I think, is the best way to do it is to try and find, even if it's not on that specific reserve, but if it's animals from a neighboring reserve or from area where that botany is, that you can introduce a few that maybe have the knowledge that's been passed down over generations that can then teach the newcomers about the new habitat. Because I think they really do, I don't just think, I know there's been so much research done on how these animals definitely pass knowledge on to one another, especially something like an elephant. They're just so super smart. Spas, you asking, do elephants also rely on smell to see if the fruit is not rotten? Certainly, they would definitely rely on their sense of smell to know possibly how ripe the fruit is, whether the fruit is ready to be eaten, whether it's rotten. I'm sure vision comes into that as well. It would be a real waste of time if they have to smell every single fruit on a tree, but if they can see the fruits that are looking a little bit more yellow, and then they can go and sniff those and be like, okay, well, this one's not quite ripe. But if they have to try and do it by smell only, I think that might be quite time consuming. So I'm sure for elephants that vision comes into play when they're feeding. You can see how this chap is really focusing on the wetland plants. He has been eating in the reeds and on the edges of the water the whole time we've been watching him. Probably going for the green reeds. The grasses have all kind of died off at this time of the year, so he is looking for greenery, for something a little bit more nutritious. Okay, let's go over to Nkoro. It seems like there's a hippo that might be wanting to leave the water. So let's head over there, leave this chap to his lunch. Okay, well, this terrapin is going to go on an adventure if he stays up there. If the hippo exits the water, the terrapin's going to go for a bit of a ride. You can see this hippo obviously trying to take advantage of the little bit of grass that's still clinging around the edges of the dam. Now you can see what he does there. He doesn't have very well developed teeth in the front of his mouth at all. So with hippos and with white rhinos that are these kind of bulk grazers, they actually use their lips to kind of almost grab the food and then yank it with their lips and with the movement of their head, try and yank the grass out. But they don't kind of bite it off like we would expect them to with a kind of a cutting edge of teeth in the front of the mouth. If you actually look at a hippo's mouth when he's open, you'll notice that they really don't have any chewing teeth in front there at all. They have a lot of tusks for fighting and for doing a lot of damage to any opponents or for protecting themselves or protecting their young. And the chewing all happens towards the back of the mouth. And that's where the molars are, that they chew and grind the grass. And so those lips are very, very important, because the lips really allow them to kind of snap off the grass, as it were. Very difficult for them to chew in amongst the big tusks anyway, so it makes more sense for the chewing to happen at the back of the mouth, where the tusks don't get in the way. That tortoise, or terrapin should I say, not a tortoise, is really very determined to stay on the back of the hippo. Oh, little hammercorp popping up the side of the bank there. Well, well, the terrapin didn't go for a little jaunt out of the water. It looks like the hippos decided to stay in the water today. Oh, let's hope he didn't squash the terrapin when he did that little roll over, because that was exactly where the terrapin was lying. Oh, there's terrapin, he's fine.
Now this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think, because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild.
Best sighting I've presented, I found myself with wild dogs. We chased the dogs around, chased them around. They ate an impala, we got the end of that. Then another impala went into Gowrie Dam down the road there, and the wild dogs went around. Eventually the impala came close to the bank. One wild dog went and grabbed it and then just pulled it out and just did what wild dogs do. It was an emotional experience, but it was very, very special.
Step away from your daily stress and escape into nature with Wild Earth. Immerse yourself in the wilderness and become part of the natural landscape. Watch as everything comes alive. Join us as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with the wild.
How cool is this?
He responded to the spurfowl's alarm call, though. I wonder. He definitely reacted. As soon as the spurfowl alarmed, he put his head up and then he started moving away. There's something that he wasn't happy with. He might not have seen anything himself. He might just be being cautious because of the alarm calls. And then we've got some blue wildebeest as well. Oh, there's a beautiful little, I think it was a paradise wider that was flying over there. Now there seems to be a whole host of little water, or not water birds, little seed eaters that are coming to the water, possibly for a drink. That first one that flew over, just the way he was flying and the shape of his tail, I'm pretty sure it was a paradise wider, which is really cool. Actually, it could have been a broad-tailed paradise wider. I didn't see it very, very well. It was just a very brief view. Just check the distribution of the broad-tailed. Yeah, no, maybe not. It's more likely to be just your regular paradise wider. I'm not sure where they went to. All those birds flew in as if they were coming down for a drink, but now I'm not sure where they've disappeared to. This kind of waterhole in this very arid, dry kind of environment is the place you would really expect to see predators just waiting and lying in ambush. The animals are really, beholden to this water. They have to come down and get a drink. It would be a good spot for a brand of lions to lie in wait. Oh, we've got a little grey heron at Jackie. Sorry, everyone. I think the feed there froze. So just pop to Jackie's again. I always hope when we pop to Jackie's that I might see Kuchava and her two little ones. I have yet to see them on the cameras. I know they have been seen a few times. Oh, Nadine says yesterday morning early they saw two leopards on this camera. So I'm pretty sure if it was two, it's probably little Shipuku and Rulani. They do love this waterhole. It's such a great waterhole for young leopards because it has a really lovely drainage line going in from the one side and out the other side. And it's just perfect for the leopard cubs to kind of keep themselves hidden, but also possibly ambush anything that might be making its way down to the water. It seems like a lot is happening back at Old Donyo, so let's pop over there to Kenya and see what is happening at Old Donyo. Jive Bunny, you say, how am I? I'm really good. And you're asking whether I have any interesting expeditions planned in Africa. Gosh, no interesting expeditions planned for this year. We definitely, as a family, are wanting to go to Botswana next year and do an overland trip through Botswana. And we do tend to do a lot as a family in the bush. But this year, we're going to focus on KwaZulu-Natal, our home province, and spend most of our time in the bush there. Last year, I took my family on a beautiful walk in the Kruger Park, and my husband and I are really keen to walk from the north to the south or the other way around, but basically traverse the whole of the Kruger Park as a family. But that trip you can do in stages. So one year you can book, one stage of it, and then the next year you come back and you start where you left off and you book the next stage, and you can do it over about 4 or 5 years. So that's something that we are super keen to do as a family, and just walk the entire length of the Kruger. So that is something that as a family we are planning to do in the near future. But we've got friends coming out from Zimbabwe quite soon, and we're going to be taking them up to do some birding in KwaZulu-Natal. The province has got incredible birds, and also some game viewing up in northern KwaZulu-Natal, very close to Tembe. So that's, and then during the school holidays, we'll go and spend some time also in the game reserves in northern KwaZulu-Natal. That's coming up really soon. I've got about 10 days in northern KwaZulu-Natal bush, which I'm really looking forward to. So those are my plans. Nothing too exotic, but definitely lots and lots of time in the bush. Janine Ingrid Ludlow, you are asking, what is a giraffe's mane attached to? Muscles or a layer of fat? So there is definitely a long muscle that runs on either side of the kind of vertebral column for a giraffe and for a zebra as well. And then there is a fatty deposit there. It's quite obvious in zebras because when they lose condition, then that kind of muscle and fat layer disappears, and you'll see their mane start to flip over to one side. So if you see a zebra that has a mane flopped over to one side, and I believe that it's the case with giraffe as well, then it can mean that that fat layer and that muscle layer has shrunken, and that's a sign of a loss of condition. But yes, there's definitely a layer of muscle, very strong muscle that runs along either side of the vertebral column there, and then there is a small layer of fat there as well. Mostly muscle though. It's mostly muscle. Lenny, you say, I missed the two youngsters checking out Julia the Croc. I actually did go in and have a look at that. And that was quite something. I was very nervous. I thought Julia was going to take one of them out, but thankfully that didn't happen. Um, yeah, that would have been terrible. But yeah, interesting to see how curious they were about that crocodile, Julia. She is a huge croc. Well, it seems like the Ellies are sharing this hole for the time being, although it's a bit of an uneasy kind of sharing. They're sticking to their side, and all the other animals are on the other side of the water. I suppose that gives them just a little bit of time to zoot away if the elephants do decide that they don't want them around. Yeah, you can see how nervous that zebra is with any movement from the elephant. Now let's see if this giraffe is brave enough to drink with the elephants. It takes so long for them to get their necks down to the level that they can actually drink, and then quite a process to get back up again if the Ellies decide to lose patience with them. But this giraffe looks like he's going to get the bash. And let's hope the Ellies are tolerant of him coming for a drink, or her. It looks like a female. Fluffy horns. And the beautiful, very jagged edges to the patches, typical of the Maasai giraffe. Well, she decided against it. It must be so hard for them because often the elephants come in waves. So just when, the giraffes have been waiting for ages to drink, and just when one group of elephants had enough and is moving off, there's another group of elephants moving in. So quite tricky for them all to get a drink at this little waterhole. Gosh, that one that moved in there is not wasting any time. Must be really thirsty. Just went straight, put its trunk in and had a few really quick sips. Jackie, you saying, how do elephants get perfect holes on their ears? Jackie, I've often wondered that. I think maybe the tusk that's gone through an ear, in the odd kind of skirmishes and tussles that they have with one another. Tip of the tusk going through the ear, to me, makes the most sense as to how you often see them with these almost perfectly round holes all the way through. I suppose it could be a branch, but to me it makes more sense that it might be an injury from a tusk. I would imagine a branch would leave more of a jagged kind of a tear, whereas a poke, really rough poke from a tusk could cause a bit of a hole through the ear and an injury on the other side even, which then heals up when you're left with that hole in the ear. I've never seen a young calf, a very, very young calf with a hole in the ear, because I think I heard someone once suggest that maybe they were born with them, but I've never seen a baby elephant, very, very young with a hole in the ear. So I think those holes are a sign of some form of injury. And to me, what makes the most sense is the tusks.
Join me, Danielle Carstens, in Mashatu, Botswana's land of giants, with over 1,000 elephants, leopards in nyala berry trees, and exclusive access to photographic hides. This is a wildlife photographer's paradise. I'll be there photo guiding you throughout, providing hands-on training and tips. Let's capture striking images together in one of Africa's most rewarding reserves. I would love for you to join me.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Are you ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Wild Earth Travel's newsletter is your passport to a magical journey. Explore exclusive travel options featuring special offers at stunning Wild Earth locations and all hosted by your favorite presenters. Don't miss out. Head over to our website and subscribe to the Wild Earth Travel newsletter today and stay in the know on all our unforgettable adventures. Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
But waterholes are also important places for different groups to meet up with one another. You know, they are often the places where you find tussles happening between, you know, two bulls that are of similar size that might be wrestling for dominance. And so these water areas are very important congregating areas for elephants, whether it's the members of the same group kind of meeting up when they've been separated for a bit, or just different groups meeting up to socialize. There's quite a few giraffe there now, just waiting for these ellies to be done. That one bull, the one on the far right, he was kind of standing on the left for a long time without drinking. So I think he's had his fill, but he's hanging around because, as I've just said, it is quite an important social kind of meeting spot for all these elephants. He definitely seems to have finished drinking and bathing. Charlene, you say they don't look rushed at all. No, they're definitely not letting the presence of the giraffe dictate how long they take at the water. They are the true kings of the jungle, and they are going to take as long as they feel they want to take. Everyone else will have to wait. One on the far right definitely seems to be the biggest, and in my mind, the most dominant of this group. He's kind of standing his ground. He doesn't have the biggest tusks at all, but his body, he's definitely bigger than most of the others. His tusks are quite thick, but quite short compared to the others. It's always fascinating to see that with elephants, how tusks are really very much controlled by genes, because that is a big elephant. You would expect him to have the longest, biggest tusks, but he doesn't. Look at the other one hanging his trunk over his tusk. Whenever they do that, they're looking for trouble. You can see again the butterflies all congregating on the wet patches of sand. Lots of those white butterflies just landing on that area that the elephants have soaked. I don't know if you noticed how they all kind of stopped there for a second. So they went from kind of each one splashing the water or flapping their ears, or suddenly all of them being very, very still. You often see that with elephants, and then you think, I wonder what they're listening to. I'm sure that when they do that, they're actually listening to something, some elephant in the distance calling or something. But it gets all of their attention, because every single one of them suddenly just got very still. Well, it wasn't for long. It was literally a couple of seconds, but it was enough to be noticeable. Really interesting. In the past, when I've been around elephants, when they've done that, I've tried to listen myself and see if I can pick up what they're hearing, but most of the time I don't hear anything, and yet they definitely all of them suddenly just stop all activity. So it's not coincidence. They're all hearing something at the same time. They are fascinating animals. One of my favorite books that I've ever read is a book called Elephantums by Lyle Watson. And any of you that are fascinated by elephants, I would advise reading that book. It is quite an incredible book on with a lot of science, but then also a lot of really interesting kind of speculation about elephants. I found it quite thought-provoking and really quite a fascinating read. So I would highly suggest for those of you that like reading wildlife type material, Elephantums by Lyle Watson is a really good one to get your hands on. And it goes into all that kind of stuff that we don't really understand about elephants, but that where there's definitely something going on. Yeah, it's a really interesting book to read. That chap putting his whole head over the other elephant, that must have been quite heavy. Okay, well, it's definitely an elephant day today. We've got some more elephants at Safari Hook. So let's head over to Safari Hook in Namibia. So now we're heading south and quite far to the west of the African continent. This elephant looks tuskless. Like a tuskless female, maybe? I'm assuming it's a female just because of the calf that's there. Does look like a female. See lots of evidence of elephant activity around this waterhole with all the droppings. And she definitely has no tusks. It doesn't even look like they've broken off. It looks like she has no tusks at all. A good scratch on that piece of wood. Oh, some interesting little seed eaters flying around, coming in for a drink of water. Could have been quelliers. It was quite a big flock. Difficult to see clearly. That actually looks like a bull. It doesn't look like a cow. Initially, I thought it was a cow, but it's got quite a rounded forehead. Doesn't seem to have any mammary glands. So maybe the one that was closest there, that just walked close to the camera, is this one's mum. Because that one doesn't look like the mum. This little chap's definitely young enough that he should be with his mum. Okay, the signal's not great here. We're going to pop over to Tembe in northern KwaZulu-Natal. More Ellies. Now that young bull is resting his one leg on his other leg. It's also as much as resting their trunk over their tusk can be a sign of being cheeky. That resting of the leg like that is also a bit of a sign that they're in a bit of a cheeky mood. All these little signs that you've got to be quite aware of with elephants, so that you know when you're close to them when it's time to just give them their space and when it's okay.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My full name is Mpho Muthusi Tikani. I grew up in Soweto. My first animal that I filmed said to dog. Okay, no, it's my first animal that I filmed, I think it was an impala. Best sighting ever, I would say it was actually this year, 2024. But it was at this Cedric when we had Muluwati and TP on a warthog kill. I think we have to cut it.
So I have heard stories, claiming either side of the argument, but many kind of naturalists and scientists that I've spoken to are in agreement that it kind of makes evolutionary sense. I think also if you look at a young cheetah, other than making them look like a honey badger, um, when they are lying in the grass, if mum's gone off hunting, remember that what we were talking about earlier, that a cheetah mother doesn't have a lot of options in terms of den sites. There's not lots of, rocky areas or thick bush where their habitat is, and so they kind of need to just leave their young in a thick clump of grass. And when the young are lying down in the grass, that long kind of lighter hair can make them, it breaks their profile and makes them look a little bit like, it just looks like waving tips of grass if they lie down flat. So I'm sure that also comes into it. But the fact that the bottom of them is so dark as well, there doesn't really seem to be any evolutionary explanation for that other than the honey badger explanation. So I think there might be a couple of things coming into play with the way these young cheetah look. But I wouldn't completely put aside the looking like a honey badger theory. I think there's something in it. Oh, so Jean, oh, Martina, you're asking about the name of the book. The name of the book is Elephantums. Elephantums. It's by Lyle Watson. Let me just make sure that I'm giving you the right name. I'll spell it for you once I have the right name. Okay, so yes, I was pronouncing it correctly. So it's a book by Lyle Watson, and his name is spelled Lyall, and then Watson, Watson, and the name of the book is Elephantums, Elephantoms. It's definitely a worthwhile read for anyone that's interested in wildlife and in elephants in particular. One of my favorite books. I really enjoyed it. Jean, you say, do animals go on a diet when eating too much? Really interesting question, Jean. And no, they don't, because animals, unlike us, haven't lost their ability to gauge when they're hungry and when they're not hungry. Um, Humans have kind of lost that sense, we eat for enjoyment rather than for survival, whereas animals eat for survival. So if an animal's got a full belly, he goes and sleeps it off, and he doesn't really worry too much about eating for a while. We tend to eat out of enjoyment, or eat when we're bored, or eat when we're sitting in front of the television. Um, so no, animals never need to put themselves on a diet. The only animals that need to go on diets are animals in captivity, where we've taken away their natural behavior and taken away often their ability to exercise and work off their food. And also, probably out of boredom, they maybe eat more than they would, or more than they need to. So, animals out in the wild, you never see an obese or an overweight animal in the wild. It just doesn't happen. But animals in captivity, it can happen. One of the challenges of running an animal breeding center like this, or a rehabilitation center, is how much food to feed these animals so that they don't become obese. I worked at a cheetah rehabilitation center for a while during my early years, and it was quite a challenge to work out for each individual cheetah just how much food to give them, so that they didn't get overweight. This play and this ability to move around is so important. It's why it's so nice that the enclosures there are really big, and hopefully, there'll be a lot of enrichment that goes on, and then if these animals get the chance to be relocated back into the wild, um, the larger the enclosure, the more enriching the enclosure in terms of providing them with opportunities to run and stalk and play with each other, the better their survival chances will be in the wild. It is always quite tricky to release animals into the wild when they've been born into captivity. Cheetah's one of the few big cats where there's been a lot of success with doing that compared to other cats. I shouldn't say a lot, but there have been successful reintroductions or successful introductions of captive raised cheetah into the wild. Russell, can you tell the gender of the cubs by how active they are? No, I don't think so. I think to tell the gender, you'd have to look at the size of the head. From an early age, the males' heads tend to start looking quite a bit bigger. And then obviously just a little peek under the tail, but that, when they're so fluffy, can be a bit tricky. But you'd need to look under the tail and then look at the size of the head to try and sex them. Their activity level is not an indication of their gender at all. Something's caught that little one's attention, sitting up and staring off into the other cage. What can you see, little one? Something's got your attention. Mayeshi say the cubs have grown. Yes, they definitely have. Someone reminded me that they are 8 weeks old. So already 2 months old. Very curious about something off to the left there. Typical of little predator cubs, their curiosity is just off the charts.
I feel it is a rosetted morning for us. So yes, let's see what we can find.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a serviceman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve. Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula. That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
interact with them. And so, just like if you buy a kitten from a pet shop or from a breeder, you don't generally have to teach it how to hunt birds. They naturally want to hunt. So hunting is not a problem. It's more the predator awareness and just keeping them fit enough that they're going to survive in the wild that are the major challenges. But anyway, we're going to pop back to Old Donyo and have a look at whether those ellies are still around or whether the poor giraffes have managed to sneak in a little drink. Ah, so the giraffes are not drinking, but the zebra are having a bash. See, it's easier for the zebra to get up and away. Oh, and a beautiful eland coming in for a drink as well. It's lovely. So jumpy though. Very quick to react when the elephants move. All seems a bit chaotic at this waterhole. Now, the ellies definitely don't seem to be too concerned about whether they stress the other animals out. They are the kings of the jungle and they will move when they've had their fill. And the other animals just kind of have to try and work their drink in around them. But I can understand why the giraffes are being a little bit more cautious. It's just so much more difficult for them to get up and down. If an elephant did decide to chase them off, they could be in trouble. I suppose they gauge the mood of the elephants as well. They can see whether the elephants are quite relaxed and then they might decide to come down and drink with them, or whether the elephants are in a bit of a mood. And then they'll rather wait their turn. few of them have lifted their trunk in that direction. Oh, I see another elephant bull coming in there now. It's almost like they were smelling him before he arrived. He looks like quite a big chap. He might just move these others out of his way. Mahesh, you say elephants will chase others away. They always own the waterhole. That's very true. They always own everywhere that they happen to be. You don't mess with an elephant. See the smaller one there now coming in to drink really close to the bigger one, because he kind of submitted to him as the bigger one on the left came in. So now it seems like he's been accepted. He's allowed to drink because he didn't show signs of wanting to challenge him or be aggressive. One at the back with his trunk over his tusk looks like he's thinking about maybe challenging this newcomer. There again, they all kind of stop at the same time. Stop all movement, stop flapping their ears. Just a brief moment of something, of listening, communicating, not sure. But when you're in amongst a herd of elephants and they do that, it's quite an eerie experience where they all just stop around you. Anyway, we're going to head over to another area that's often teeming with elephants, and this is Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe. So we're coming quite far south now to Zimbabwe. Ah, I knew it. I knew we were going to see Ellie's here. Lovely. Some of the biggest herds of elephants I've seen in my life have been in this area in Hwange. Hwange and up into Botswana, into Chobe. Probably some of the largest elephant herds around travel across this area. That elephant definitely seemed to be aware of the camera. I don't know what you all think, but just the way she moved past the camera, kind of looking directly at it and moving sideways across it. It really made me think that she was quite aware. I often wonder if they feel us watching them. They have some kind of awareness of us watching them. So were you asking if the animals ever interact with the cameras? Yes, they do. Sometimes to the detriment of the equipment. They definitely do sometimes, smell it or try and move it around. I've done a number of wildlife studies using camera traps, and you've got to be really careful, how you place your camera traps so that they don't get carried away by various wildlife species or knocked over or trampled. A lot of camera trap studies that happen in Africa, you'll find that the cameras are put into very strong metal boxes that are mounted onto trees, or so that animals can't break them. You've often got to mount them high enough that a hyena can't carry them away, because they get quite curious. I think they're quite curious of the kind of human smell around the camera traps, and they will sometimes take them off and carry them away. Elephants are often known to interact with cameras. So yes, definitely, the wildlife do interact with the cameras on a regular basis. There's two little ones that are play right in the water. Now something's got the herd moving. Difficult to know because we don't have any sound here, but often that is instigated by a deep rumble from the matriarch of the herd, and that then gets everyone kind of gathered together and moving along. So that could be what happened there. Sometimes it happens and you don't, as humans, we don't hear anything, but you know that they've heard something. It's got them moving or gathering together in a tight group.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
My full name is Tikani. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer And yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I want a camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing.
Incredible.
Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. The best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Lovely place to drink in the kind of dappled light there. There's gorgeous Tambuti trees that provide a lot of shade around the dam. Quite a big, what I'm presuming is a cow on the far left. The one standing side on to us now is definitely a cow. You could see the angular forehead as she stands to the side. I'm presuming the other one is a cow as well, because there was a little one standing next to her, but she looks like quite a big elephant. Impressive cow. Almost sounds like they're blowing bubbles in the water. I'm sure they do with those trunks of theirs. I know you say it's been an fantastic day at the camps. It really has. I don't think I've ever had a program that hasn't been dominated by elephants. Almost every time I've done live at the waterhole, there's just been a real choice of elephant sightings, which is always lovely. But it just also shows how dependent they are on water. Yeah, it must be quite tricky finding content when the Ellies decide not to come visit. They're always so entertaining, always just giving us lots to talk about and think about. Hello, little one. Are you coming back? Oh, and there's a little African pied wagtail having a little drink just after the Ellies leave. let's head over to Aldonio for the last few minutes of this Live at the Waterhole show and see if those giraffes are going to manage to get any water. I'm really holding thumbs for them. Oh, no, still. Look at that poor giraffe in the background there, just waiting patiently. And remember that all the time that he's waiting there, he's not feeding. So he's losing crucial feeding time to come and sit and wait here for these elephants to be done. Well, we've only got about a minute left, so I don't think we're going to get to see our giraffe drinking today. Maybe another day, but let's hope, holding thumbs, that he does get to have a little drink. There were a couple more hanging around as well. Let's hope that they get to have a little drink. Oh, something startled everyone. Maybe another elephant making its way down. I think we're going to end. Hopefully we'll get to see what it was. But it's been an absolutely awesome afternoon spending it with all of you, forgetting about all the problems in the world for a while. Please join us again tomorrow. It's been a fantastic afternoon, everyone, and thanks for interacting. Thanks for chatting. Always love to get your questions and comments. And have a wonderful day further, everyone. Goodbye.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight, a journey to South Africa's wildlife wonders. Join us on an exciting virtual safari to relax, learn, and be inspired. Discover stunning landscapes, come to know our iconic animal stars, and witness profound moments in conservation. If you'd like to plan a safari adventure to these magnificent wildlife places, then visit Wild Earth Travel, where safari comes alive.